Hi everyone. I'm going to go over in this video page 5 from your homework. It was numbers 14 to 20. Most of these have to do with functions, if it is or is not a function, and putting things into slope-intercept form. As always, if you need more examples of something or I'm not explaining something well enough, please send me an email or a message on Google Classroom and I will create another video. All right, number 14, what graph represents a function? Remember the vertical line test, which we use VLT. Each vertical line can only go through the graph one time for something to be a function. So if you make your vertical line test through A and B, each vertical line goes through the graph more than once. So they are not functions. C, we usually always have questions on. There's a vertical line going straight up and down, okay? That one is not a function because the vertical line touches the graph line infinite times. Letter D is a function because each vertical line only touches the graph one time. Again, that should be a review. Number 15 asks what graph is not a function. So if we draw our vertical lines through each of the functions, letter A is our solution. Okay, it is not a function because each vertical line goes through the graph more than once. Remember on letter B on 15, when you have open circles, that means there's nothing in the graph. So if you were to draw a vertical line through the open holes, that's okay because nothing is there. All right, number 16 is asking what the slope of the line is whose equation is y minus 2x equals 4. The first thing you want to ask yourself when you're finding slope is to remember it needs to be in y equals mx plus b form. To make sure it's in that form, y needs to be by itself. So just like we solved for x on Tuesday's video, we're now solving for y using the same process. But you want to get y by itself on the left. So we're moving the 2x to the other side. So we have y equals, remember the x comes first, then our constant. The number next to x is always our slope. So the 2 is our m. The 4 is our intercept, which is our b. They want to know what the slope is in this equation. So our answer is letter B. The slope is a positive 2. Okay, again, 16 should also be a review. Number 17 may be a little bit confusing. They are asking for the slope of the graph of the equation x equals 3. The problem with this is there's not a y in the equation. So you cannot type this into your calculator. Okay, you also cannot make a graph by hand unless you memorize it. So x equals a number. When you make this on a coordinate plane, we're going to go on our x-axis because it's x equals a number. Go over to x equals 3. Once you go over to x equals 3, we're going to make a vertical line going through 3. Okay? So bottom line is any equation that has x equals a number is always straight up and down. You remember from our vertical line test, that does not pass the function test. Okay? So in other words, the slope doesn't exist because this is not a function. Since the slope does not exist, it is undefined. Anytime you have an equation that is x equals a number, your slope is always undefined. Okay, so we'll keep talking about that through these next few online videos that we will be doing. Okay, number 18. They told you the accompanying graph shows the heart rate in beats per minute of a jogger during a 4-minute interval. So here's the interval in time. So there's our 4-minute interval. Remember, this is 0. Actually, let me erase this and just go from 0 to 4. Okay. They would like to know the range of the jogger's heart rate during the interval. So the heart rate is up here in beats per minute. The range in the heart rate just means find the lowest heart rate displayed on the graph, find the highest heart rate on the graph, and we are just subtracting. Range is just largest minus smallest. Okay, so the largest that we see is 110. The smallest heart rate that we see is 60. Now they have the answer choices as the smallest and largest that it's between. So we actually do not have to subtract on this one. Just circle the range that it's between. And that's your answer. Now if they asked you to actually calculate the range, remember it's bigger minus smaller. So 18 is letter D. 19. What graph has a negative, or what function has a negative slope? Okay, so kind of like number 16 that we did, we want to make sure these are in y equals mx plus b form before we determine does it have a positive or negative slope. Okay, so let's look at A and D because they are both already solved for y for us. Letter A has a positive slope, so that would not be the correct answer. We're looking for something to have a negative slope. Look at letter D. Letter D just says y equals 0. Well, if y equals 0, your graph's going to be a horizontal line. There's no slope. Okay, plus there's not an x in that equation to compare your slope to. All right, let's look at B and C. Let's get B in slope-intercept form, and let's see if there truly is a negative slope. So minusing your x on both sides, we have y equals, the x comes first, and then the constant. Okay. And now in B, your slope, I want you to think about for a minute. What is the slope of B? Okay, hopefully you're looking at that number in front of x, which is a -1. You can't see it, but it's there. So B definitely has a negative slope. Let's check C just to make sure, because remember, on any test you're taking, you still want to double check. So let's add 2 to both sides. We have y equals, drop down your 4x, because that x always comes first, and then your constant of plus 2. So C obviously does not have a negative slope. We have a slope of +4. So C cannot work. Therefore, like the answer key I posted for you, 19 is B. Okay, please just make sure you remember to put it into the correct form. Okay, number 20, which is an equation of a line whose slope is equal to 0. So what we want to do here is look and first see, are there any zeros in front of our x's? Because remember, when we're figuring out slope-intercept form, okay, slope is always m. So that's our slope. If there's a 0 in front of m, what happens to x? Okay, hopefully you are saying that it cancels out the x. Absolutely. Because if slope is 0, I'll write it down here for you. 0 times x plus whatever b is, your 0 times x is gone. So if an equation has a 0 slope, it has to be in the form y equals a number. That's all it's going to be. Okay, so the answer to this one is going to be letter A, because letter A is in the form y equals a number. Okay, on B, if they asked you what the slope is to B, what would you say? Okay, hopefully you remember from what number was that? From number 17, that B's slope is undefined. It is a vertical line, which is not a function. It goes up and down. So letter B is not, there's not a slope that exists. Okay. Back to letter A for a minute. If you would graph letter A, you'd have a horizontal line going through the y-axis at +1. Your slope of 0 just means that nothing is increasing or decreasing. It is a straight line, okay, going straight across. So a slope of 0 is always going to be a horizontal line. An undefined slope, like on B, is always going to be a graph with a vertical line going straight up and down. Okay, if there are other questions on this page 5, or again, if you need more information on something, please email me. I will post some more videos next week. And we'll probably switch over to our review sheet from the last time I saw you guys in school. So I will talk more about that next week. Okay, thank you. Again, stay safe and healthy. Have a good day.